Welcome to Spark Starter, the podcast dedicated to sharing stories that ignite female entrepreneurs into action. I'm your host, Elizabeth Godey, and I'm here to fan the flame of your entrepreneurial spirit. Each week, we bring to you the inspiring stories of trailblazers from around the world who have sparked change in their industries, powered their ideas into thriving businesses, and pioneered their ways to success. So, whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a startup enthusiast, or a seasoned business leader, join us as we delve into the journeys of these incredible women whose tales will surely ignite a spark in each one of us. Today, I have a guest who has no intention of retiring. Carolyn Mae Boras, founder of Carolyn Boras Hypnotherapy, has her eyes set on re-inspiring. At 69 years young, Carolyn has an extraordinary story of transformation. After more than 2 decades in education, she packed her bags and moved halfway around the world, seeking relief from burnout and a fresh start. Now, with almost 20 years of international education under her belt, Carolyn has embarked on a new mission, helping fellow educators reclaim their confidence and personal power through rapid transformational therapy. Carolyn's journey from experienced anxiety and work-life imbalance to becoming a beacon of hope for others is a testament to the transformative power of entrepreneurship. As a self-funded solopreneur, she's proving that it's never too late to reinvent yourself and make a meaningful impact. Carolyn, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
And I think what we've learned in that intro is hypnotherapy can be a hard word.
Yes, it can be. I can help you with that, though, you know.
Well, as a lifelong dyslexic, you may or may not be able to help me, but I appreciate that.
You did very well. You did very well reading all of that then.
Well, so Carolyn, what an incredible background. What an exciting sort of transformation that you have taken in your life. Why don't we go back a little bit and what were you doing before you decided to sort of take the world on?
To go back, I had been teaching in Canada for about 25 years. And where I was living in Canada at the time, it was very expensive. And I found that, it was very expensive. I couldn't afford to go out and do anything. It was hard to have a social life because of the expense. I was driving a 15-year-old car with 250,000 kilometers on it, and I was just praying that it wouldn't break down. So I had all of those things going on in my personal life, but also I found that whenever I went into a staff room, it didn't matter what school I went into. The only talk I ever heard was people talking about how many days, weeks, months, and hours they had until retirement. Mm. And I thought, I was looking at that point in time, I was looking at celebrating my 50th birthday. And I thought, well, if I'm going to retire at 65, I cannot stand to be around this constant misery for the next 15 years. How am I going to stand it? And so it was around that time that I discovered the world of international teaching. I had no idea that such a thing even existed. And so when I was 50, I had just turned 50, I embarked on my international teaching career. And as I was getting ready to turn 50, at that time I was thinking, well, 50 is a really big number. I've never been 50 before. So what's that going to be like? And so I decided that my 50s were going to be my decade of adventure. And there I was in my 50s. I had adventures that I never would have had I stayed at home. Travel adventures for one thing, but also adventures in my professional life. I all of a sudden now had opportunities that I didn't have had I stayed back home. So my 50s were coming to an end. And then I was looking at turning 60 and I thought, well, now 60 is a pretty big number. And it's something I've never done. What is this going to be about? So I decided my 60s were going to be my decade of even more adventure. So, okay. So I was still in international education. And so actually, since I sent you my biography there, I've just turned 70. And
Oh,
so,
congratulations. Happy birthday.
well, and so I thought, well, now 70's like a huge number. What am I going to do with this decade? And so I decided that my 70s were going to be my decade of my second brilliant career, which is me now doing RTT, Rapid Transformational Therapy. And my 80s are going to be my Yoda years, because hopefully by then I'll have acquired some wisdom. And my 90s, I don't know what that decade's going to be about. I haven't decided that. But the way I got into RTT was that about 5 years ago, I had a health scare.
Oh.
And I was very fortunate that I was given a second chance. And I know that not everybody's given a second chance. So I was pondering this big, huge, existential question. Why was I given a second chance? What am I supposed to do with this now? And it was around that time that I had discovered Rapid Transformational Therapy, and I'd always been interested in how the brain works and hypnotherapy. And so I got the training. And after I got the training, I thought, well, what am I going to do with this valuable, powerful tool that I have access to now? And then I realized teachers and education are in crisis. They're in absolute crisis. What do I know about? I know about teachers and I know about education. And so I decided that the way I could best honor this gift that I was given, this gift of a second chance, would be to help my fellow educators, because I just stepped out of the classroom after 45 years. And over the years, I have seen how my colleagues have suffered because of stress and burnout and all of the things that are happening currently in education.
Oh,
And
Carolyn, do you think that there was a moment in time where it feels like that was becoming more evident? Or do you think that that has always existed? Because I feel like what I've been hearing a lot about is that certainly, a lot of people left during the time of COVID, during the time of the lockdown,
absolutely.
having to go to online and things like that.
Yep.
So I was curious if you felt like that the narrative at this point is based on sort of that moment, but has it really has it always been happening?
Well, I was just going to say, 45 years ago when I started in education, there were problems. Yeah. And I faced my share of challenges and I faced my share of ups and downs like everybody else. But there were not the things happening in education then that there are now. And so back then, as I was going through the challenges, one of the problems was that help and support systems were not as readily available. And so the challenges that I went through, I had to go through that myself. Where was I going to find help? How could I find it? The internet wasn't the way it is now, and there wasn't ready access to the help that there is now. And so, but for sure, since COVID, things have never really, I would improved, if that's the word that I can use, because I was in Vietnam at the time of lockdown, when we had lockdown, and I have to say, online teaching, that was the absolute worst. How I was teaching drama at the time. How do you teach drama online to 5-year-olds? It doesn't work. It's ridiculous. And so,
I think teaching any subject online to 5-year-olds is difficult.
That's true. Absolutely. And so the thing about the whole COVID thing was, at first, teachers were considered heroes because we had to turn on a dime. On Friday, we were at school. Monday, we were online. And our curriculum was never designed to be an online curriculum, but we were expected, make it online. And
Right.
so at first we were heroes, but as COVID dragged on, then teachers became the scapegoats. All of
Right.
a sudden it was like our fault that there weren't enough computers at home, and parents who had to stay home needed the computers. There weren't enough computers for the kids. They couldn't get the work done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when our kids came back after COVID, they had basically been online for a year. And so when they came back, it is not a gross exaggeration to say that the kids came back with social problems.
Oh,
Boy,
sure.
did they ever. Oh
Sure.
my gosh. They had been spending all of this time on TikTok, lots of times unsupervised, because parents had to go to work or they were just with an older sibling. And of course, you know how that supervision doesn't happen. And so
Yeah.
they came back talking like the people that they were watching, these influencers. And I'm like, what is going on?
Right.
And so they had no idea about social interaction. And I have to say, it was very, very odd being an adult coming back and expecting it, and being expected now to have social interactions with other adults as well as kids, and all of the regulations that were in place to get kids back into school. So it was not a good situation. And so I don't think education has really recovered from that, but it wasn't in a great place to begin with, even before that, and um, I'm following several teacher Facebook groups, and Elizabeth, the things that people are reporting that they are experiencing, I never had to go through those things with parents and kids and administrators and media. I mean, yes, I had to go through parents and kids and administrators and media. Yeah. But the things that teachers are reporting, it's just shocking. And I'm thinking, I don't know how these people are staying in this every single day. They need help. And of course, not everybody can pack their bags and go clear across to the other side of the planet like I did. I know that's not doable for everybody. I mean, it's not. People have to stay where they are for lots of different reasons.
But that's why
But
you created the Rapid Transformational Therapy, right?
well, that's why I know that I have a tool that can help people, that can help teachers, because when you are so stuck in this situation, when you feel that you can't move and you're so overwhelmed and you're exhausted, you can't see what it is you need to do. You think you need to upend your entire life, but that's not always the case.
Mm.
Some people might just need to change grade level. Maybe that's all they need. Or they might need to change schools. Or maybe they might need to change school districts and go across town. Or if they might be able to change state or province, or move across the country, or move around the world. But you don't need to do all of that unless you want to. And some people, they might need to change profession. Okay, fine. But it doesn't mean you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater unless you want to. And so it's also helping people get clear about in their thinking and get clear in their options. But when everything is coming at you, you cannot think clearly. I mean, you just can't, because you're too overwhelmed, right? And so one of the things that I'd been noticing in these teacher threads several teachers were reporting, well, I found my tree. I'm going, and I said, well, what do you mean? What is that? Well, some people are in such a state of distress. They have found the tree that they're going to drive into on their way home from work to incapacitate themselves, not too much, but just enough to get off work. And one of the readers from the UK said, well, in the UK, we don't call it finding a tree. We call it finding a wall or finding a bridge. I mean, how has education and teaching come to that? It left me speechless and
heartbroken. I don't know. Heartbroken is sort of the sentiment that I felt. It's
heartbroken.
No one should have a job that they're looking to incapacitate themselves from, right?
Exactly.
That's
exactly right. Exactly. And so I think that, to help, when you think of a classroom, it's like your little empire, right? And the teacher's at the top, of course. And so the empire, the environment, is only as good as the person at the top. And we know water runs downhill, right? So if that person at the top is in such a state of distress that in the middle of the day, in the middle of the class, they're running out of the classroom in tears and crying in the bathroom, or if they are driving to school in the morning and they're in such a state they cannot get themselves to get out of their car and go into the building, anybody has to ask, how much teaching and learning is going on in that classroom?
Right.
Really. And so my goal is to help as many teachers as possible because help is available. And I think that by helping one teacher, it's like the ripple effect. You drop a pebble into the water. If that teacher's well-being is improved, it affects the kids who go home and affect their parents, who go home and affect the larger community, and then the world at large. And the thing is, I don't just want to drop a pebble. I want to drop a whole big boulder. So those ripples exponentially. And I think that, for so long, we as teachers have been hoping that the people out there who make the decisions will make the decisions that will change what's happening in the classroom. Right. But, it's not going to happen because the people out there do not understand what it means to be a teacher in a classroom. And they don't understand the myriad decisions that we have to make during the day. And the people out there do not understand that, for example, if you're a first grade teacher, your biggest win of the day might be the fact that all of your kids found their way to the bathroom and back and none of them got lost, or nobody cried and nobody threw up that day, right, including the teacher. That they don't understand that that's a big win. And so to expect the people who don't understand education inside the classroom to make decisions that will improve our situation, it's just not going to happen. So the change has to happen at a grassroots level. It has to start with us.
Right.
And so as I said, my goal is to help as many teachers as possible, and also to provide help that is affordable to people as well, because that's a really important thing to consider as well, right? So I'm on a mission to help as many teachers as I can. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Carolyn, I love that. I love that you are doing something, right? You saw the problem and you're really doing something to try to impact it. And I love the fact that you're trying to drop a boulder and not just a pebble. The visual on that is brilliant. And on the SPARK StartHer podcast, we also like to cover sort of, not only what it is that you're doing to help other people out there, but also what does it take to actually do it? And so if you don't mind, I'd love to ask you some questions, particularly about what it's like to have your business, especially because you have a rather unique perspective, because you've decided to sort of, for lack of a better way to describe it, taking the show on the road, right? Taking your position around the world. And
Yes.
so, what do you think has been the biggest benefit to you of having your business?
I think the biggest benefit is the fact that I can now do, I can now take my teaching skills and use my teaching skills and my experience in another environment. When I decided that I was going to step out of the classroom, because I've been a classroom teacher for so many years, I had to get used to the idea. I had to say out loud several times, I am no longer a classroom teacher. I'm no longer a classroom teacher, but I'm a teacher of grown-ups now. And so I'm still using those skills, and I can still be creative, because I mean, I taught music and drama and creative dance. And so I can still use my teaching skills to communicate, to connect with people, to form relationships with people. I'm just doing it on a different stage, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
now I can do it also at the speed at
Mm.
which I want to do it.
Yes.
I'm no longer, now this is one of the things I'm having to get used to, is the fact that now I have my own schedule.
Mm.
I'm not between 9 and 10:10. I've got grade twos, and then I've got a 20-minute coffee break. And that's, I'm starting to appreciate that flexibility. And now I can focus entirely on this. Whereas before, I was still in the classroom full time, but I was doing this part time. And so, you know, it was difficult. But that now that I'm my own boss, I can decide when and what I do and where, you know. So I'm really appreciating that flexibility. But the fact that I can use this knowledge now to help my colleagues, because so many of my colleagues are in need. So, and I decided that I was not going to retire. The word retire was not part of my vocabulary, because to me, retirement was one step to the grave. And yeah,
Sure.
I just wasn't going to do that. So I thought, I can also use this stage to re-inspire people that age is age, I mean, it sounds goofy, but age is only, what is that saying that people always use?
Age is only
Um, Thank you. Yeah, that, and it really is true. I mean, people of my demographic, you don't need to just sit in front of the TV. There are other things to do. And so I would rather continue to do these things. And also having this business makes me realize I'm also contributing. And
Right.
it's very important for me to honor that gift of a second chance that I was given. It's because that took me a long time to figure out. I knew I had this, but I just didn't know what to do with it. And so this is the best way that I can honor that. So that's what I think I appreciate the most about being able to do this work now.
Yeah. There's so many little nuggets in there. I mean, that was not a simple, I have a better time management, and I love that you sort of provided all those perspectives. But we also know that, having a business is hard, right? There is,
Yeah,
we all have these, I think, we imagine how easy it's going to be when we can control our schedule, when we can
right.
sort of be in charge of everything. What do you think has been, if you were to focus on one thing that you feel like has really been gosh, I really don't love this part.
Right.
What do you think would be that thing for you?
Um, that part for me would be doing the technical things. As we were speaking before the program started, I don't have a clue about that technical stuff. And the other thing is, I wanted to mention, I've come from 45 years of being a salaried employee.
Yes.
And I had this great training and I had this great idea, and yes, I'm going to do this.
Right.
Well, how do you do it? Well,
Right.
I don't know the first thing about having a business. All I know is I want to help people. Like, where do you even start? And this has been such a huge learning curve for me. I had no idea that there were all of these pieces to this puzzle that had to go to. How do you put it all together? I didn't even know that all of these pieces were necessary in order to get this done. And I have to say, thank goodness I found myself a great business coach, because if it weren't for her, I would not be doing this now. And every time I have a session with her, it's like, you mean I have to do that now? Like, how does that fit into all of this? And also, because there are all of these pieces, it's like, okay, now that I've got all this schedule that I didn't have before, what do I focus on? Like, what's the most important thing? Oh, Carolyn, they're all important. Okay. Like, I've only got so many hours in the day. So what is the most important? Well, it's like they're all really important. So the fact that I have somebody else who can guide me through this process has just been a godsend. Because, my father was a farmer. So in that sense, I came from an entrepreneurial
Yeah.
background, but I mean, not really, because I'm used to getting a salary. So now what does this all mean? So as I say, it's been a huge learning curve, but thank goodness there are people out there who can guide you and who can help. Thank goodness.
Yeah, Carolyn, I'm so glad that you brought this up, because I think as women, we naturally have this can-do attitude, right? Like, I'll
Yeah,
figure it out. I can do it, on my own. And I think that's why a lot of us self-fund, right? Because
yeah,
we can figure it out. We're scrappy enough to sort of figure it out. But I do think it's important to emphasize having mentors, having coaches,
yes,
having the people that can help us be guided into
yes,
the direction that's going to help us be our best selves. We should not shy away from that. And we should
exactly.
be raising our hand and asking for referrals or asking for help from others, because that will help us be
Sure,
better. I mean, just even hearing
sure,
from your perspective in particular of what you've been offered has certainly made a big difference in your business.
sure.
And
And so, sorry. No,
no, please.
I was just going to say, and because I don't have like the technical aspect of things, I have to say, I mean, the VA that I have, who's, I must email her 10 times a day, because what about this and what, and she must just roll her eyes like, what does this woman want? But I am not shy about asking for her help, because honestly, I don't have a clue about this stuff. And thank goodness there are people out there who can provide help, so.
And one thing I think I would be remiss to not say this, we don't always need as much tech as we sometimes might think that we do. We should only use as much tech as what makes our business easier and
Sure,
actually get it to the point of making, money or keeping more money, when you think about the perspective of taxes and things like that. But otherwise, sometimes too much tech can actually
yes,
be a distraction and impacts our business. So I'm not necessarily saying that to you, Carolyn, but I am saying it to anybody else
sure,
who's listening that might be sort of going down the rabbit trail of like feeling like they need to learn every single tech piece that's out
yeah,
there at the
yeah,
sacrifice of being able to grow their business. So, Carolyn, just one last sort of question on this topic
sure.
is, was there anything that surprised you about having your business?
Um, what surprised me was, I think, as I mentioned before, all of the pieces that are necessary to go into making a business and making it successful. I had no idea. I just knew, as I said, I just knew I wanted to help people. And I didn't know what I didn't know about running a business. And so, I mean, it's all a big, huge surprise to me. Let me tell you, it is a huge surprise. I know what I know about RTT and hypnotherapy and teaching and all of that, but this is an education I never thought that I would be involved in, let me tell you. So the whole thing has surprised me. So it's keeping me on my toes because I never know what it is I'm going to have to learn about next, seriously, really, so anyhow.
Yeah, that's all really really great points. And one thing that I don't think we've totally covered yet, and I don't want us to leave our time together without you fully explaining it, is tell us a little bit about the exact service that you offer to all these people that you're hoping to help. So I know
Okay.
that it's in hypnotherapy. I know that you use your rapid transformational therapy, but what specifically is that?
Okay. Rapid transformational therapy is a technique that uses special tools and techniques. And through hypnosis, we access the subconscious. But the really important thing about rapid transformational therapy is because we access the subconscious, we can get to the root cause of the belief that is holding a person back. Because if you think of your beliefs, beliefs are kind of like an anchor. We see a boat, it's floating on the surface, and we don't really see the anchor that's attached to underneath the water that's holding the boat in place. All we know is that we're stuck and we can't move forward. We can't seem to get what it is we want, but we don't understand why. But once you can find out what the root cause of that belief is, you can flip that belief. It's like cutting the chain that is attaching the anchor to the boat, and the boat then can float. So once you flip that belief, then we start to remember our superpowers. When we are in the depths of despair, we think, nothing in our life is working. Nothing in our life has ever worked. Our life is a big fat mess. We're going nowhere. We forget our superpowers. We forget, oh, I got my PhD degree. Oh, I bought my first house. Oh, I ran my first marathon. Oh, I had my first baby. We forget all of those things because all we can see is the fact that we're not getting what it is that we want. But as soon as we can flip those beliefs, and once we understand what is holding us back, we can change, and why it's holding us back, we can change our behavior. And then we can start living the life that we envision. We can't change things that we don't understand. And so once we understand, then we can make changes. And I think it's really important for us to understand that an incident equals belief. Whatever has happened to you in your life, you formed a belief about yourself. So if your brother called you fat when you were 10, you formed a belief about yourself. So we've got all of these beliefs. Many times we don't even know how the beliefs are driving our behavior. And our behavior then is what is causing the actions, the end result. We don't know how we got there. We can't understand why the same thing keeps happening over and over and over again. So the thing with rapid transformational therapy is change can happen quite quickly because we can access the subconscious, find out the root cause, and flip those beliefs. Then transformation can happen. And so, it requires maybe between 1 to 3 sessions to help a person with their issue. Not all the time, because it depends on the issue, depends on the person, right? So that's what it is. That's how RTT can help. Having said that, and the fact that I'm talking from a teacher's perspective, I think it's important for your listeners to know that teachers have not cornered the market on stress and burnout. I mean, we've all experienced stress to varying degrees at different times in our life, and some have experienced burnout. We've all experienced lack of motivation, procrastination, imposter syndrome, self-esteem issues,
Absolutely.
confidence. You know, it doesn't matter what our occupation is. So you don't have to be a teacher to be facing these issues. So I'd like to tell your listeners, you don't have to be a teacher to contact me and get help.
Well, what a great segue into, Carolyn, how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more?
Okay. You can go onto my website, carolynborashypnotherapy.com. You can also email me, Carolyn at carolynborashypnotherapy.com. And I have to say, I'm taking appointments for the rest of August and for September. I would love it if people want to get in contact with me and just have what we call a discovery call, a 20-minute conversation to find out if this is the right thing for you, if we're a good fit for each other, or if you're curious and want some more information. I'd be more than happy to have a talk with anybody who's interested. So please feel free, contact me.
Oh, Carolyn, that's so generous of you, and thank you very much. I know that each of our listeners will be excited to take advantage of that. So the last question that I have for you,
Yes.
and this is a question that I ask every single guest, which is, what is one word or a short phrase that you would give to a woman who's looking to start or grow her business?
Let me see. One word. Did you say a word or a phrase? Word
Yeah,
or a
sure.
phrase? I would say have courage.
Yes.
Have courage. And which would imply taking a risk, because you've got to take a risk. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, truly, So I would say courage. That's the big thing that I think is also propelling me. I have to have courage to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you've had courage a lot. I love how you're taking sort of this thematic approach to each of the decades of your life. I'm so excited that we were able to be here together as you sort of are commencing the this new decade of transformation. And just thank you so much for all of your insights and that you've shared with each of us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you to our listeners who have joined us today on the SPARK StartHer Podcast. It's been a pleasure bringing you the uniquely inspiring stories that ignite female entrepreneurs into action. I've been your host, Elizabeth Godey, and on behalf of all the awe-inspiring women entrepreneurs out there, I encourage you to not only dream big, but to ignite those dreams into action. Remember, every spark can lead to an extraordinary fire. So keep the spark alive for today, tomorrow, and the vibrant future beyond. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to never miss a spark. Until next time, stay ignited.